Second men's European cross-country championships, in which there is a very strong favourite. He is the winner from last year. We had a new winner in the women's race, but Paulo Guerra is back from Portugal. He's been the top European cross-country runner for over 2 years now.
Representing Belgium.
The athletes parade underway. As you can see, it's just getting underway. That's the leading team, Belgium. There's a gentleman in their team called Rousseau, Stéphane Rousseau, who's an international standard runner, but not to be mistaken for Vincent Rousseau, arguably the world's best marathon runner, certainly in the top 2 or 3 in the world. The Croatian team, all 4 of them, and I have to say, looking down my list, not any familiar names in there. The team from the Czech Republic. See the athletes keeping their tracksuits on for as long as possible. Maybe that mist creating a little bit more cold than one would expect. Danish team there, again, lacking stars, to be perfectly honest. This race, depending on Guerra's form, could be regarded as open. He's been racing on the circuit in the last 2 or 3 weeks, has been beaten. He finished 3rd in Dunkirk a couple of weeks ago, the Portuguese, but was only beaten by 2 Africans, although Andrew Pearson of Britain finished very close behind him. That's the French squad. Now, that is a very strong team. Last year, they finished in 3rd place, and they should certainly challenge for the gold or silver today. They have 3 of their bronze medal winning team from last year. The Germans, well, not traditionally a strong nation in cross-country. Last year, Dieter Baumann ran for them, the Olympic 5,000 metres champion. But he's chosen to give it a miss this year after failing to finish high up in last year's race, Baumann. Hungarian quartet. They can't afford any non-finishers, that's for sure. 4 to score in the men's competition. There's the Irish team, which sadly is missing Mark Carroll, a man who had a major breakthrough last summer over 5,000 metres. He's had to pull out at very short notice. The Italian team, well, last year they finished in 5th place, the Italians. Might have been a bit disappointed with that, with their tradition of distance running. And again this year, to be honest, most of their big names absent from their squad. There's the Dutch quintet. And again, Dutch athletics, well, not in its best of shape at the moment. A few ripples on that River Anne now, but still very little wind. That is the Belgian team, who we saw jogging through a little while ago. The British team, incidentally, who we'll see come up very shortly, finished in 4th place last year, but this year have a very strong squad indeed, and a lot of people expecting Andrew Pearson to finish amongst the individual medals and to be strongly backed up by Keith Cullen and John Brown. It may come down to the 4th scorer for Great Britain. We have 3 men there who are certainly in world-class form at the moment, but the 4th scorer could prove crucial. The majority of these teams we're seeing come up on the screen at the moment are likely to have perhaps 1 good runner amongst them, and that's fine for him, but it really is a team race as much as anything else, this. And you need to be well supported by your compatriots. Finland, well, will they have been inspired by that win from Sandell in the women's race? Surely they'll have seen that while they were warming up. They'll have been jogging round and round the course. They'll have had a good look at all the bends and at that vicious little hill over at the far end from where they start. There's the French squad. So strong, that squad. Couple of world-class 5,000 metre men there. Mohamed Ezer, the number 52 there, is 35 years old, but he ran 13:13 last year for a new French record over 5,000. Tsiosevsky there, number 56, is the reigning world junior, or rather European junior champion at 5,000 and 10,000. Konrad Dobler there, of Germany, better known as a marathon exponent, backed up by his teammates, but really, on the true international scene, none of those other names really well known. And I suspect they'll be filling the latter half of the field. There's that British team. John Brown, Keith Cullen and Andrew Pearson amongst the favourites. Colin Jones from Wales, expected to put on a good showing. And certainly he, Taylor Unudal, will be wanting to take that backup running up spot. Making his debut, Colin Jones. He's been showing very, very good road form recently. They've got almost 5 laps to run, the men. 9 kilometres their distance. Due off now in 2 or 3 minutes' time, although it does depend if they can get that parade out of the way. There's the Irish squad. Now, I understand Mark Carroll is not running, so I think he's scratched. Although that's still quite a useful team. John Downs there, based in the UK. He's actually coached by Dave Bedford, former world cross-country champion, or should I say, winner of the international cross-country before it achieved IAAF status. There's the Italian squad, Modica and Di Lello, pretty well known, although Di Lello better known as a marathon runner. And it may be that a lot of the top 5K and 10K men regard these European cross-country championships taking place in early December as not fitting with their plans, and the national federations have to give the squad places to athletes for whom it's almost a bit of fun, really, a bit of light relief from the hard training to take part in this, because not too much is expected of them. And that would, for example, would apply to Di Lello, the marathon runner from Italy. Dutch distance running itself not in great shape, but certainly Hengelo in Holland producing some rather startling performances now as a venue. And Jos Hermans, who has been coaching Gebre Selassie, the world record holder of 5,000 and 10,000, surely should be imparting some of that knowledge and experience to Dutch distance runners. They certainly need their help in world terms. There's that Portuguese quartet. Gold medal winners in the team event last year. Guerra, the reigning champion. Still only 25 years old, Paulo Guerra, but has shown great form throughout 1995 on the country and the track. The Russians, well, they have mixed form at distance running. They used to have a great tradition, of course, at distance running with the likes of Vladimir Kutz, winning gold medals for them in various major championships. But in recent years, it seems to be an area that has been a little ignored by the Russian Federation, or sports machine, if you like. They do much better in the power events and indeed the technical events. Spanish squad, well, they'll be challenging for the medals, that's for sure. They took the silver last year, just lost out by just 7 points to Portugal. But I rather fancy that French squad myself. I think they could certainly improve on their bronze medals of last year. Look for good runs from Gomez and Edan there. Edan was 4th last year, the first of the Spanish finishers, or second of the Spanish finishers, excuse me. Serrano was the bronze medalist last year. He's been left at home this year, but nevertheless still a strong squad from the Spaniards. Garcia was 7th last year, and he'll be wanting to improve on that. The Swedes, well, like the Finnish men, perhaps they'll be inspired from the running of little Sara Vedlund in that women's race. Just shows that even in something like cross-country, power and bulk don't count for a great deal necessarily. However you cover the ground, as long as you do it fast, is good enough. So if anything, the mist appears to be thickening in the valley below Alnwick Castle. Those battlements, some 900 years old now. The home of the Duke of Northumberland, the 11th Duke of Northumberland resident in Alnwick Castle these days. But down below, he's been good enough to let Northumberland County Council put on these races on the fields beside the River Aln. The second men's European cross-country championships due off very shortly. That's the Dutch team there. The Latvian quartet. Then the Spaniards. That's Gomez leading them out, 1:84. tough character, Gomez. Finished high up in the World Cross Country as long ago as 1989, finished 6th in the mud of Norway. Then Gerda, there's the champion, wearing gloves. He's not taking any chances, looking very, very serious. When he won last year, he said it was the most significant race of his life. Right beside them, the British quartet, Andrew Pearson there, wearing 74, 72 to the right is Keith Cullen. Pearson has had his fair share of injuries over the years, and so has Keith Cullen. Both young, both very talented, and today is a good opportunity for them to pull themselves up and get noticed internationally. The French, that is a strong squad, make no mistake. Essaid, Ezer and Béard, all world-class men on the track. 53 there, that's Béard, very fast man indeed, over 5,000 metres. The Italians very keen to get underway. 9 kilometres ahead of them then, some 5 laps of this circuit. Oh, well, at least they've been brought back. At least they've been brought back. I must admit I've seen some run in some races on the continent before where chaotic starts like that take place and they do not come back. Believe me, you can falter in your own step, you can slow down, you can shout at them, but some of them will keep going, and inevitably the whole field gradually trundles and gets going. And that's certainly not the first time I've seen that, and I'm sure it won't be the last, although it's probably a first in the UK. Very, very rarely do you get that in English domestic races. I hesitate to say it's because of the foreign influence, but everybody knows you've got to wait for the gun. I'm not sure what the problem is.
Wait. Away we go for the second time of asking. The Weetabix European Men's Cross Country Championships gets underway.
Now, I was saying earlier during the women's race that because their race was only half this distance, it was likely to be fast and hard from the start, and that the men's race is likely to be more tactical. Well, we'll find out about that now. I have to say that in a lot of cross-country races, you find it's hard and fast from the start, whether it's 9K or the full 12-kilometre distance that they use for the World Cross Country Championship. There's always somebody, nearly always somebody, prepared to go to the front and push it on hard. And when that person starts having a bad patch, so somebody else has a good patch and moves through and pushes it along. And to place highly in major international cross-country races nowadays, particularly with the Africans present, you've got to be in very, very good shape indeed. Well, I think we're looking at somebody after a bit of glory here for the early stages. This is Klaus Hansen of Denmark, leading at the moment, number 33. Indeed, none of the big names evident so far, but then they've only been running for a minute. Quite a big field, this. Important that they get themselves sorted out in this first straight as they approach the hill for the first time, because it's quite a sharp bend going into that hill. I can see the Britons well positioned. I can already see Andrew Pearson there, number 74, in the centre of picture. And a couple of Italian vests high up, and the green too of Portugal with Guerra inside it, up in about 10th or 12th place at the moment. He started well. That's important because you don't want to get caught towards the back of a field like this or boxed in the middle in the early stages when others may be wanting to push on very hard and breaking away in the first lap or lap and a half. Pearson has moved up into about 5th place now. 64 also up there at the front is Thorsten Naumann of Germany. 115, one of the Italians is moved up there, Michel Legamba. But there's a long way to go yet, although if one has true aspirations of finishing in the top 10 in an event of this kind, you should almost be up there already in the top 25 or so. You can't really move through from the back. If you're struggling with the early pace, then chances are you're going to struggle with the mid and latter pace in a race of this nature. Naumann it is, not an Olympic champion, would be but for the N. In the lead at the moment for Germany. John Downs goes through for Ireland there, 94. And bringing up the rear there, Henrik Alban of Denmark. So we had a Dane right at the very front, and we have a Dane at the very back of this field, which is spread out over what, some 80 metres or so already. 112. This is Giuliano Bartocletti of Italy at the front at the moment. And indeed, he's being well backed up in 3rd place there by Michel Legamba, his teammate. But neither of these two big international names. And I really fancy the favoured athletes prior to the gun will start showing very shortly. Certainly, I can see Gerda up there in about 7th or 8th place. Andrew Pearson is up there too. And in fact, there's a couple of British vests in the top half dozen. Well, I have to say it would be a real turn-up for the books if Naumann were to finish in the top 3 or 4 here. Not a world-class athlete over any surface. Just enjoying these early meters with less than 4 minutes on the clock. That's the chasing group. This little trio out in front with Naumann and the 2 Italians, Bartocletti and Gamba, in the lead. But last year it didn't take very long for Paolo Guerra to get the race by the scruff of the neck and break away, and he pushed on that victory margin of 16 seconds from mid-race, really. Runaway victory that was, as we had earlier on, if you just joined us some half an hour or so ago, in the women's race, with Sandell taking gold for Finland. Well, Bartocletti there certainly looks very confident. So does Gamba. The Italians do have a bit of a record of running as a team. They quite often use the tactics available to people prepared to cooperate with each other, more so certainly than British athletes do. But at the moment, I think everybody is just waiting for this pace, perhaps to settle down a little bit. One still gets the impression they're going faster than is the optimum pace, and that's why we have some relatively little-known internationally names at the front. How about that for a picture? Absolutely glorious. Keith Cullen there for Britain, to the right of picture in the chasing group. Really has achieved his main results, best results on the roads, Keith Cullen. Still only 23, comes from Chelmsford in Essex, to the northeast of London. But recently beat both Andrew Pearson, his teammate here, and Paul Evans, who was second in the New York Marathon a month or so ago, over 10 kilometres. So has shown great form. 2 kilometres in 5:51. That last kilometre in 2:58. So it shows just how fast that first kilometre was. Well, just some 6 minutes gone on the clock. A long, long way to go for these men yet. We're going to a quick break, but do stay with us. Welcome back to the European Cross-Country Championships from Alnwick. Slight change at the front. We have a Frenchman, a 19-year-old Zvershevsky of France, in the lead at the moment. Winner of both the 5,000 and 10,000 at this year's European Junior Championships, and the pace has remained very, very fast indeed up there at the front. Gerda and one of his teammates have only just managed to ease themselves up towards the leading trio. I think Alfredo Braz of Portugal is also up there. Bartocletti, the Italian, has been able to hold his position in the leading group, although certainly it's beginning to settle down perhaps a little bit now as they head out along the flat stretch there, having gone through the lap marker again. Bartocletti pushing the pace along. You can see Andrew Pearson there of Britain to the right of that group. Has shown such good form recently, Andrew Pearson, with a new personal best over 10,000 in a race in Barnsley on the roads. He won over 1.9 kilometres at Gateshead last week. That's a relative sprint for cross-country and distance men, remember, showing that there's certainly nothing wrong with his speed. And that 10k run surely indicates that his strength is very good too. Said he wanted to finish in the top 5 this year, having finished in 11th last year, Pearson. He was Britain's top finisher then, but certainly his form in recent weeks has indicated he's capable of improving substantially on that 11th place. Keith Cullen still up there to the left of that group, in the white vest and blue shorts for Great Britain. That's good too. Gomez, the Spaniard, maintaining the Spanish challenge, and indeed several Spanish vests up there in the top 12 or so now. It's looking good for them. Remember, they took the silver medals in the team race last year. the reasoning behind this race, having been started last year, perhaps forced by the African dominance of distance running on the world scene, but in particular in the World Cross Country Championships in recent years. The Kenyans in particular have been runaway winners time after time of the individual and team race for several years now. Khalid Skar of Morocco perhaps creating the only blip in 1990 and 1991 when he lifted consecutive world titles. But no Moroccans, Kenyans or Ethiopians here today. This is a battle royal for the Europeans, and Keith Cullen now for Great Britain has moved himself up towards the front. Andrew Pearson alongside him there, 74. Gomez at the front then, in front of the two Britons. One of the French there in fourth place. And Guerra is there too in the green vest of Portugal. Now, is he just biding his time, or is he stretched at the moment? Certainly, his form in recent weeks has been very, very good indeed. He did beat Andrew Pearson a couple of weeks ago, but only by 3 seconds. Every reason for Pearson and Cullen to look on this very, very confidently indeed. My own advice at this stage would be to just settle in there now. Don't take the lead. Let other people do the work at the front. Just stay in touch with the leaders. Keep yourselves in that lead group of 6 or 8. John Brown is up there now too for Britain. So 3 Britons in this leading group. 2 Frenchmen, 2 Spaniards, an Italian and a Portuguese. Looking very, very good indeed this for the Britons. 151 there in the green of Portugal towards the back of that group. That is Brás, the second Portuguese at the moment. As you can see, Guerra, who has reddish hair, just coming to the right of shot in the green. He's actually in 8th place. There he goes. 152 he's wearing. Certainly I get the feeling that this pace over the first couple of laps in Alnwick is considerably faster than last year. It could be a case of who will survive it in the latter stages, because I suspect there's several men in this group who are overextending themselves compared with what would be their optimum pace.
Les compétiteurs entament maintenant leurs 3 derniers tours avec toujours Samy en tête, suivi de très près par les Espagnols, Grande-Bretagne et France.
Still Gomez and Bartocletti at the front of this field. Bartocletti very stubbornly holding on to the lead there, although Pearson eases through on the inside. I just hope his coach Richard Hepworth is out there on the course shouting at him what to do. Stay in there, don't do the work just yet. It's still early stages. Winning time last year on this circuit for Guerra was 27:43, so we're just at about halfway now in this race. Same circuit as last year. But that group of some 12 men beginning to break away now and opening big gaps on the rest.
2 in that first group.
Chances are if anybody peels off the back of that group, they'll head back towards the chasers very, very quickly indeed. But John Brown looks comfortable, wearing number 71 there to the right of that group for Great Britain.
So this is one of the greatest British performances we've seen in recent years in a major cross-country championship.
Well, you can hear it for yourself there from the PA on the course, just how good this is looking for Great Britain at the moment. Certainly British distance running has had its problems in the last 3 or 4 years. It's taken a slight improvement in the last month or so, with Eamon Martin winning the Chicago Marathon and Paul Evans second in New York a month ago. But that's marathon running. This is cross-country, different branch of the sport. And British cross-country running internationally has not been in great shape now for some years, but certainly these 3, Brown, Cullen and Pearson, letting nobody down at this stage. 5 kilometres in 15:05, the last kilometre in 3:03. So they're just churning out these kilometres, an average of 3:01 per kilometre, and that is fast for a circuit, a grass circuit with a very, very tough little climb on each lap. One very positive thing for these Britons too, who are perhaps experiencing this sort of packing for the first time. They're all relatively young, Brown, Pearson and Cullen, is that they'll be aware of each other there. They'll know the others are present, and that'll be helping the adrenaline flow. They'll be wanting to do well for each other here, knowing that the team race is within their grasp, although the 4th counter absolutely paramount in importance for the Britons. And I've yet to see where that fourth runner is for Great Britain. Pearson yet again eases himself into the lead, and I do get the distinct feeling he's holding himself back here. Obviously feels good. Little glance over his shoulder just then was a telltale sign. He's just trying to gauge the form of the others around him. Spaniards there, Gomez, 184, and 185 for the right of picture, Manuel Pancorbo, who is a good 1,500-metre runner. He's showing very good form over considerably further than the metric mile. There are 4 Spaniards now in this group, so the Spaniards certainly leading in the team race at the moment as Gomez hits the front. But the fact that they're spread 4 across at the front of this field is an indication that none of them really wanting to take it on, none of them wanting to commit themselves just yet, with what, some 11 minutes perhaps of hard running ahead of them. Couple of laps to go. Gomez for Spain there in the lead, a very, very experienced performer on the track and country, although perhaps has never really fulfilled his potential on the track as he has done on the country. There are very few distance runners who can be said to have produced good performances year in, year out throughout their career, spanning 6 or 8 years. Gomez is 28 years old now, in second place now behind Pearson. That's a best of 27.39 on the track. For 10,000 metres, that's considerably faster than any of these 3 Britons. But now Pearson has unleashed what surely was becoming a lot of pent-up energy that he couldn't hold back any longer. For a lap or so, he looked like he was beginning to get a little frustrated there, surely following the orders of his coach and what he knew to be the right thing deep down. But now he's taken it on, and like Sandel, he can't hold back any longer. He's pushing on and beginning to open up gaps. He's breaking up that group. 3:07 for the last kilometre. Yes, it had slowed a little bit. 6 kilometres in 18:12. Guerra has recognised the danger in the gloves. He's moved into third place, the reigning European champion. He's chasing these 2 now and closing that gap very, very quickly. I would see him as the danger man for Andrew Pearson now, but Pearson certainly looking very, very springy. Cullen and Brown there in 6th and 7th, trying to stay in touch with this breakaway from Pearson, who is asking all the questions, and from a group about 10 yards from front to back of some 12 or 14 athletes, all of a sudden it covers 50 yards within the space of about 600 or 800. Pearson has done that damage. Bartocletti, the Italian, struggling now back in 5th or 6th place. I think that's one of the Ukrainian vests I can see back there in about 10th place. That's 212. That is Sergei Lebed of the Ukraine, who's having a marvellous run here up against far better known competitors. Well, we've got about 8 minutes of running to go. Pearson leading from Gomez and Guerra. Everything to run for the Briton. Stay with us. Andrew Pearson pushes on then in this European Cross-Country Championships for men. The race coming to its climax now, and this group of 6 breaking away from the rest. Pearson has done most of the damage. Gomez of Spain is there too in the red and yellow. Guerra, the reigning champion, is in that group. He's looking dangerous in 3rd place. Saïd, the 25-year-old from France, is also up there. He's a world-class man on the track and will have good speed if it comes to a sprint. And the 5th and 6th places being filled at the moment by 2 more Britons. Keith Cullen from Essex and John Brown from Sheffield, running very, very strongly. And Pearson pushes on again, and Gomez has gone. The Spaniard drops back in the red and yellow. Guerra, blowing hard, beat Pearson recently on the cross-country circuit on the continent, but Pearson really is in control at the moment, and Guerra looks to me as though he's working very, very hard for this. This is where the psychological factor becomes important. Pearson has got to remain confident of his own abilities here. Guerra has taken the lead. Pearson has got to stay with him and indeed regain the initiative, in my opinion. Well, look at this burst from Guerra. Is he bluffing or not? Andrew Pearson's got to keep his head down. got to keep driving on and try to close that gap. If Guerra gets away now, then it's over. And certainly the gap seems to be growing. Gomez is in third, Cullen in fourth, Said in fifth, with John Brown back in sixth place. This is beginning to look familiar, although it's taken Paulo Guerra of Portugal much longer to get to the front and open the gap on the rest of the field than it did last year on this very same circuit in Alnwick. Pearson now can't afford to let his head drop. He's got to keep driving on and keep the gap between himself and the men behind him. Bras goes through for Portugal. He's their second scorer. The Spaniards still looking very good indeed in this team race as Guerra approaches the log. That's just about the only obstacle on the race. Last year there was a much bigger log on the circuit. But Pearson has dropped back to third place with Gomez in second. Did Pearson go too early? It certainly appears that way at the moment. Although Britain looking very good in the team race with third, fourth and sixth at the moment. Guerra, though, does have the bit between his teeth, doesn't he? Look at this surge from him, striding away now alongside the River Aln. Originally started as a steeplechaser, Guerra, and you have to be tough for that event. Ran in the 1989 European Junior Steeplechase Championships, then finished 13th in the World Cross Country last year. That was his first major appearance on the international scene. He was the first European in that race. Then he was fifth in the European Championships 10,000 last year on the track in Helsinki, and his credentials on more than one surface were assured. He finished sixth in the World Cross Country this year. First European finisher in Durham, just a few miles from here. And certainly it looks like the northeast of England is going to prove a very happy hunting ground for Paulo Guerra again in the latter end of 1995. Gomez and Pearson in second and third, fighting for the silver medal. Keith Cullen of Chelmsford back in fourth place, trying to keep the Frenchman Said at bay. Cullen himself is only 23 years old. Gomez here is 28. Some 4 years older than Pearson, and maybe those 4 years will prove the difference when it comes to it. Heading down now, the long drag towards the finish. And Paulo Guerra, without any doubt, barring disaster, is going to retain his European cross-country title in very fine form, although it's been a harder race for him than last year. Gomez here using that 10,000 metre speed, that track speed, to get away from Pearson in the latter stages, who himself appears to be under pressure from Keith Cullen. Gomez with nervous glances over his shoulder there, trying to find out what's going on behind, and he'll see that he's opening up a gap on Pearson in third place. But this is Guerra gritting his teeth. He's kept the gloves on physically, but in actual fact has really taken them off in the latter stages of this race, metaphorically speaking. Coming home now to a second consecutive European cross-country championship gold medal. Another major title for the Portuguese indeed. Machado winning the World Championship Marathon in the summer in Gothenburg. It's gold all the way for Portuguese distance running these days, and today it's thanks to Paulo Guerra. The winning time, 26:40, so much faster than last year. Gomez comes home for the silver for Spain. Pearson takes that well-deserved bronze. Keith Cullen fourth, and I'm sure he'll be very pleased with that. Said in fifth for France, and John Brown takes sixth for Great Britain. That's 3 out of the 4 finishers Britain need now in the team race home already. 151 there for the Portuguese. That's Bras coming home. 183 there for Spain. That's Garcia. The Spaniards coming home thick and fast there, and indeed this is the 4th Spanish scorer, I think, and if that's confirmed it will be their team race without any doubt. 182 then, Pere Arco comes home for the Spaniards in around 10th place. Another French finish there, finished 56. That's the youngster Sufetsky. And the Portuguese coming home thick and fast. So it looks like the French have taken the team race from Portugal, and maybe France in third place. Ironically, Britain, with 3 in the first 6, could finish outside the medals. We're still looking for the 4th British finisher to come home, and that has been absolutely crucial. What a shame. Unless my eyes have deceived me and I've missed one, then Britain's fourth finisher there, irrespective of whether he's given 100% or not, and I'm sure he will have done, has just kept Britain from taking the medals, or rather, all the men in front of him have. The gold and silver medalists there, Paula Guerra, the winner again in the European Cross Country Championships, and Gomez of Spain, the silver medalist.